And we are live. Welcome YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and my favorite, LinkedIn. I'm your co-host, Duncan Harrison, and welcome to another episode of the Rise and Grind Show, Bossing Up, exploring the journey from employee to entrepreneur. I'm here live with my main man from Qatar. Tell him who you are, brother.
Peace and blessings, everyone, to the panelists, to my co-hosts, to the audience. Jay Tyler, live from Qatar. But, I want to get into this important topic. I think a lot of people are excited about it. So without further ado, let's do what we came here to do. You dig?
So. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, listen, we have an all-star panel today, and let me add one more for you today to talk about your journey from employee to entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm super excited. I hope that you are too. And so before we and so actually what I want to do is just allow each panelist kind of to introduce themselves, and I want to start with Miss Alicia Peen, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for having me, first of all. So I guess I'll tell you guys a little bit about my background. So I currently work as an HR professional for a company called Siemens Healthineers. I also do HR consulting for small businesses. I have a career coaching business where I help candidates become more acclimated to the interview process, resumes, how to really get through the hiring process. And I also have a fashion boutique. I got my bachelor's in psychology, and I have my master's in organizational psychology from Kane.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're definitely glad to have you here as well. If I got Mr. TK Mack, please introduce yourself to the viewers.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? I want to make sure my pods are working.
Yes.
We're good. Okay. All right. Good. Everyone, my name is TK Mack. I'm from Los.
You're chopping up a little bit. I think your ear pods are working, but you're chopping up a little bit.
Yeah, and they're chopping up a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. Give me 2 seconds. Here, can you go to someone else? I'm gonna move closer to the router, and then
definitely,
come back
definitely.
To me 2 seconds.
That's cool.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, we got it definitely. So I want to introduce to our viewers Miss Mylena Sutton.
Get it right. Get it right.
I tell people I'm a Southern girl, so let that accent work for you. It's Mylena. I own a business called Voltage Vista Consulting. I've been in business now since 2007. I have been working full-time for myself now for, I think maybe since about 2013 or so. So my business initially started off, I was doing my business or growing my business, planning my business, and to some extent still working a whole host of other gigs as I was trying to get my business up and running. I focus on what I call the 3 C's of the workplace: compliance, conflict, and culture, because I believe that those are the elements of the employee's everyday experience. And by working on those, I can work with leaders to help them get their teams aligned and fix their people problems. Essentially, I do that work. I do it every day. I will say, in addition to the target customers that I actually have, I find that I see the work that I do as a calling, if you will, because you go to work every single day. And if you are unhappy at work, you are unhappy at life. The stress and pressure of going to work every single day, think about it. 8 hours at work, an hour getting dressed, an hour getting there, coming back. If your job makes you miserable, you don't have time to be miserable anywhere else. Your life is just miserable. And so for me, I see the work that I do as a type of calling, not only for employees, but also to leaders. We often don't have enough empathy in their direction. Sometimes leaders are struggling too. They just happen to have the title. And so I go into workplaces to help people figure out their people problems so they can work toward whatever the mission is and serve their customers better.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Right.
Definitely glad to have you on the show today as well. Definitely. And so we also want to introduce Ms. Shamir Haskins. And let me get you, I think you're on mute.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi. My name is Shamir Nicole Haskins. I am I know I have this nice little banner here, but so, but professionally, I am the owner of Shamir Nicole Salon LLC. And I've been in business now for about 8 years, and I am a digital content creator as well as social media strategist. So I teach women like myself how to create digital products and to monetize on digital platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as being Mrs. New Jersey.
Wow.
Shout out to New Jersey. Shout out.
Right.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Right.
How many other shows can say that you have Miss New Jersey on the show? That's right.
Yeah. We
Welcome
doing
to the
it today.
Rise and Grind show. That's
Yeah,
right.
we're doing it
Thank
today.
you for having me,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely,
No problem.
definitely.
No
Well,
problem.
listen, before we get into the questions, you know, just for our viewers, you know, we just want to really show a short clip of a video that kind of speaks to, you know, the journey from employee to entrepreneur. We thought it was pretty powerful, so we wanted to share that with our viewers and you know, really just discuss that with the panelists as well. All right, so here we go.
I've been sitting out there for the last half hour trying to come up with a story that would explain my being here dressed like this.
Chris, what would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
Chris, sit down, please.
I thought I'd wear a shirt today, you know, being the last day and all.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. But, wear one tomorrow, though, okay? Because tomorrow's going to be your first day. If you'd like to work here as a broker. Would you like that, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Good. We couldn't be happier. So, welcome. Was it as easy as it looked?
No, sir. No, sir, it wasn't.
Good luck, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now that's a tearjerker.
Yeah, I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah, I'm not.
But you know what was funny? Like, I'm thinking about his same face that he had in the Red Table Talk when it was Tegelman. I felt like he had that same energy. You know what I mean? Like, but nah, it was a tearjerker for sure.
Terrible.
Definitely. But
Way to
first of
lighten
all,
the mood with that.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you.
oh yeah, definitely. Well, let's give it up for Will Smith because I think he did an
Yeah.
excellent job playing Chris Gardner.
Style. True Will
He
Smith
did.
style.
Yes.
Definitely. And if you know anything about Chris Gardner, so when we talk about you know, employee to entrepreneur, this is a gentleman that, you know, worked hard I guess for his family, went into entrepreneurship to sell bone density scanners, you know, went broke, homeless, raising a child by himself, to going into an internship, not knowing, you know, not making any money, living in homeless shelters, in subways, to actually, you know, opening up his own firm and becoming a multi-millionaire. So, you know, if that doesn't say employee to entrepreneur, I don't know what does. So I just want to say, you know, Will Smith, if you're watching this, thank you for playing Chris Gardner. Salute to you as well. Oh yeah. So go ahead, Jay Tyler. Let's get into the questions.
Okay. All right. So, you know, this is a question that I kind of want to start off with the basics of, and I think it's a good place for the audience to know as well. So I just want everyone to walk us through their journey as an employee. Like, where did they start after college? How did they get to be an employee? And kind of stop there before we jump into the entrepreneurship part. So if someone can, you know, start and let us know about your employee experience and your employee journey.
I guess I'll go first. To some extent, my employee journey it was a bit interesting. I've always had a commitment to some degree of entrepreneurship. When I was in middle school, I was selling blow pops and e-pens out of my backpack. And it's always been important to me. I'm probably older, I'm assuming, than most of you on the call. I remember, I think it was maybe in the mid 80s when the economy turned down. I can't remember when it was in the 80s, but I remember distinctly saying to my grandparents, because I grew up with them, like, what are these people going to do? They're losing their jobs. I remember being cognizant of those kind of financial perils for people. And it always was an issue for me to have income coming from more than one spot. So I can't remember when having at least two sources of income wasn't of interest to me. With that being said, all of the jobs that I had, whether it was in undergrad, grad school, I was fortunate enough that they put me in a place where they never killed my spirit with respect to entrepreneurship, simply because of all the positions I've had. None of them were the kinds of jobs that I was so in love with them that I couldn't keep tiring of that at some point. And one of my last job experiences, I will never forget it, as my grandmother would say to me. I had a secretary who was giving me the business. And what I mean, the business, I asked God to kill her one time. I mean, it's bad.
It's like that.
If the police are listening, that was over 7 years ago. She didn't mean that. Seriously.
I don't know this woman. I don't know who she is.
Right. And I remember talking to my supervisor about it, because though she worked for me, I didn't have the ability to terminate or to discipline without support. And what he said to me was mind blowing. He was like, "You are not crazy. She does treat you poorly. So let me get it straight. You see this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "But here's what I can also tell." He said, "I can tell by the way that you carry yourself that you're not going to be here for the long haul." But she is. Even though she might not like you and she treats you like she treats you, she's going to be harder to replace than you will be. And he said, furthermore, he didn't say these terms, but he was like, "You're not ride or die, I can tell." He's like, "And frankly, I only have a couple years left before I'm eligible to retire. And I'm not going to go to bat for somebody who I think might quit at any time." And so with that being said, it was just a really good experience for me to recognize, you know what, you are in this work world for yourself. And I'm not saying that you can't have a job that you're committed to or whatnot, but I shared that experience to say most of the professional experiences I've had in the workplace have been experiences where the work in and of itself was very different than the people part in terms of the political dynamics, the office culture. And what I have found is that the happiness that I have at this point in my professional life has come from the fact that I don't have to play the office games anymore. And so with that being said, my journey has always been about finding a place where I have mental and emotional peace. And so with that being said, whether I was doing HR work, some degree of supervising other people or not, it has always been about not enjoying the game. And frankly, I don't know if I think it's possible for you to completely get away from that, no matter what you do, if you work internally as an employee.
Wow.
Oh, because the games is what a lot of people opt out of. So I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Alicia, Shamir, TK, what do you think?
Okay, I can go next. My journey to entrepreneurship was a little bit different. I've been in the salon atmosphere since I was about maybe 5 or 6. I come from a generation of cosmetologists. So my grandmother, my aunt, and that's all I've ever known. And so I would definitely say being an employee definitely helped gear me to entrepreneurship. I already knew what it took to run a salon business. I knew what it took to engage my customers, to create and foster those relationships and friendships within the salon. So I think my journey to entrepreneurship was a little bit different, but it definitely geared me for some lifelong lessons.
Okay. Alicia, TK.
Yes, I'll go next. So I'll go back to my experience prior to my current job. I worked for a company, called Community Options. And so at that employer, I worked with individuals with disabilities to help them with employment services. So that meant getting their resume prepared, helping them with interview skills, and all while understanding, disabilities and different things like that. And so it was a great opportunity because at the time I was getting my undergrad degree. So it was kind of going hand in hand with the psychology and all the things that I was learning. So it was a form of entrepreneurship in a sense that I had to make sure that I was getting my clients, jobs. So that took effort on my part. Of course, we got tools from my employer, but it was really me going on the ground, talking to employers, making sure they got their interviews, making sure they got their callbacks. And so for me, that helped me to kind of enjoy a duality because it was, me kind of, doing the scheduling, making sure, again, like they had the resources that they needed to go on these interviews and have a fair chance to actually interview and be considered for a position. And I kind of worked adjacent to HR in that capacity at that time. And I saw a lot of the things that Melina, am I saying it right?
Mylena
had mentioned, where there was a lack of empathy in the workplace, whether it was from a recruiter or from an HR person that was doing the hiring. And so sometimes the practices would be unfair. And I think it's really just based upon the lack of education about individuals with disabilities and how to change interview styles and how to really, diversify and be inclusive of all of those people, even though a lot of companies have that in their mission statement, right? So at that job, again, it was me taking the knowledge that I had and being able to, use it to help my clients get the job. So again, those weren't tools that were given to me by the employer. That was something I had to bring to the table.
All right. Very good. Very good. And TK Mac, I know you got on a little bit later.
Sorry about that. Can everybody hear me now? We got a little bit better.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot better. Duncan, should we have him do his intro? Because he was the only one who did not do his intro. So maybe before he answers.
Definitely.
It's super quick. I do.
Tell him who you are, brother.
I do a lot of various things in music and acting and film and creative stuff. So I also run a small consulting company called Artist Island Management Group, and we consult for several brands. And by consulting, I mean just helping with brand direction, whether it's figuring out rollout of a product or graphic design, or just kind of overall scope things, more scope oriented than execution, but just kind of help sit and I'm a vibe person, like professional vibe person, so to speak.
Nice.
So I also have a consulting company doing that.
Now, when you say music, are you talking like a Barry Gordy, Pharrell? what exactly do you do? I sing a little bit in the shower.
No.
Oh yeah, I sing a little bit. Yeah,
goodness.
I'm not going to sing now for the viewers.
I was going to say, because Jay Tyler back in the day. I don't know if you know.
Come on now.
He's lost.
Oh no. Don't bring that up.
Yeah. So music wise, much more on the musical end as a producer, songwriter, and then professionally as I would say it's kind of my day job split. I spend half the time 12 hours in the studio, 12 hours either in the airport or on stage.
Wow.
So Dunk, I was gonna say, just like Coming to America. Remember that guy who was like at the benefit? He was like, "That boy good. That boy good." Right. He got a little skill. So TK, the question was, kind of walk us through your journey to be an employee. So after college and everything like that, I know your experience. It was funny. So I think, you might want to go ahead and talk about maybe your brief experience as an employee before you transition.
My employment is probably, I'm probably the worst person to have on this show. My employment experience was brief. It lasted 9 to 10 months, I think.
Yeah.
And I excelled, actually. I did well. Worked as a project manager and service coordinator for an international bottling company in New Jersey. And we managed 93% of all plastic bottles made in the world. Wow. And I managed all their service technicians, coordinated with the international headquarters in Germany, frequently flew back and forth. And then recognized that I actually was not good at coming to work on time,
Mm.
and also
We got a lot of, we have a lot in common.
I didn't understand that when you were finished work, like you couldn't leave. Like I didn't understand that. I was like, "What? I'm done." What do you mean? You gave me this list of things. I'm done. It's 12:30. I don't care if it's Tuesday. Like,
Right.
I'm gone. So it lasted very briefly, and then I went full steam ahead into the music business. So.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And I gotta remember to look at this camera. I'm sorry, I stream every day, and there's a camera that's pointed this direction. So I'm in a habit of looking this way, and I'm using the webcam, so I need to look this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that it was very, very brief. I apologize to any of our viewers. Don't be like me.
Well, I think the beauty of it is that everyone has their own experience, and so it's native to you. And it's also played a factor into where you are today, So, we're not here to, look at everyone's and evaluate and critique everyone's experience. But it's like some people need to hear that, hey, 9 to 10 months is all I got. I'm moving, or I did it for 5 years and left, right? Or I'm still doing both, right? And trying to figure out which one is gonna pop a little bit. So it's all, a valuable experience. So, and then. Duncan, you want to share? Because we're still employees, but we also have businesses. Like it's a little different, I guess. I don't know if everyone's doing a dual role, but No, you want to share about that or no?
I mean, I see you just put me on the spot here. So if my employer is listening, definitely it's the best thing since sliced bread. Love waking up, going to work every morning, working hard. But the P. Diddy in me, just wants to go ahead and be, go for greatness. But I think, I can remember one time, probably a couple years ago, when I worked for an employer. And I can remember going to the job interview, and Justin, you might remember this. And I can remember sitting in the job interview and telling the gentleman, not only do I want to work for that organization, but I also have my own, side business. And his response was, well, how are you going to focus 100% on us if you can't, and you're doing the side business? And my thing is, like, I'm multi-talented. I can do a lot at one time. And still be able, to function in dual roles, right? And sometimes those dual roles actually, may benefit each other. And so, but I can remember there was another gentleman who kind of stopped that guy and said, "Listen, he gave you your answer. I like him. Hire him." And I was actually very successful in that role. And the guy that asked me that question ended up going to jail because it turned out he was stealing from the company. So he probably just didn't want me to know, what was going on with him. But then I can also remember later on down the road, sitting down with one of our main funders for the program that I was working at. And that funder saying to me, Duncan, you are too good for this program, right? Why are you working here? You should be off doing bigger and better things. And in my eyes, I never looked at it like that. I was like, I'm a rock star here. I'm doing my thing. I'm able to do what I need to do on the side. But needless to say, I ended up leaving that organization and going to another, which I'm still currently at, which I'm, very happy. We're doing some great things. The Father Center of New Jersey, just definitely want to give them a plug. Doing some great things as well. But we also, on the side, we have MercerCountyWorks.com. Real jobs, real resumes, real results, right? Where we're helping people get employed, right? Yeah. That's our passion. So
yes. No, definitely. I think I keep it short too. I'm out in Qatar. I don't know if everyone knows that. It's about 2:55 right now.
Where is Qatar for the viewers that are geographically challenged?
He always asks me this question, so I'm gonna break it down. Right, we're about 45-minute plane ride from Dubai. So if you know where UAE, Dubai is, 45-minute plane ride to a small but very rich and probably the richest country in the world, in Qatar. So I work out here abroad. I've been here for almost 4 years. And, me and Duncan also, work for Mercer County Works. So we were the co-founders, of Mercer County Works. So I do marketing, PR, communications in my role. And it's fun. I love it. I'm not just saying that because, the Fed's watching or my boss is watching or something, but I love it. I love it. But also Mercer County Works is like the passion. Right. And, it's all about just like having duality. Because this is something that gives me a little bit more life when I'm out of work. Like I'm excited to come home, rush, have a meeting with Duncan, focus on some marketing, focus on some copywriting, things like that, whatever we do. So it's wonderful. And doing both is tiring a little bit. And maybe we'll get into that, but it's lovely. But let's move on because it's so much that the panelists have to share. This is a big question here, and I want to kind of hear everyone's response for sure. Describe the turning point when you decided to either transition 100% entrepreneurship, or when you propelled yourself into building a business in your off hours and you were still an employee. So describe that experience. And for the sake of, because we have 5 people here, Shamir, go first. I want to hear your response first.
Okay. So I worked for a corporate salon for about, I believe it was 8 years. And I was in salon with about 20 other men and women. And I was promoted to salon manager. And when I was working with corporate, I realized really quickly that a lot of people who were making the decisions weren't qualified to do so. So you're making decisions about an industry that they're not proficient in. And so when I realized that I wasn't able to effectively cultivate change in that organization, that's when I decided I needed to run things on my terms. And so that's when I just decided, corporate America is not for me. It's not creative enough. I don't like to be, put into a box. And so I just made that. It was a really simple transition for me. I just knew I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. I don't want anyone to try to play on my creativity or box me in. So I just decided to go ahead and start my own business. And I literally did it almost maybe next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very interesting. That's quick. Sometimes it's like, I eased into it. The next day. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very good. Alicia, go ahead. I wanted the free flow. So Alicia, you can go ahead.
So what was the turning point for me was when I realized that my methods and the things that I was doing to get my clients hired at a faster rate, and they were stable at their jobs, longer. Those things were done by my methods, right? And it's not that, I'm a person that doesn't follow policy. I don't want my employer to, think I'm just out here doing anything either. But I found that, my little spin on things or my going the extra mile for things was getting better results than the cookie cutter information and resources that I was given. And so I decided, well, if I can do this for these clients, then I should be able to do this on my own. So I started my business, AP Lifestyle and Consulting, which again, like I said earlier, does resume writing, interview prep, and then some leadership development as well. So I wanted to be able to take all of the extra layers out of the hiring process for candidates so that they could get in, get prepped, and get the job that they're going after and not have to, settle for something because they had to fit into this box of, the standard for that particular employer. But that was kind of the turning point for me. I would say that every job that I've worked at, I've had to insert a little bit of myself in, and I've usually been given the leeway to do that because it gets results. But again, I figured if I'm doing that, then why not do that for myself?
Indeed,
Nice.
indeed.
Nice.
All right. Mylena, TK Matt, or is yours?
You can go. Go ahead.
Thank you. There are a couple things. I think with most people who run businesses and they decide that they really want to focus on it, I think the issue is more in here than it is about what you do. And so for me, I think there were 2 turning points. When the economy had its downturn in 2008, I had to make some decisions. Look, I have bills to pay. I got life to live and things are tight. And I didn't really want to apply for a job because, as I said before, in terms of my employee journey, I knew that going back to work, at least in my mind, was going to be more of the same. And that, I can do the job, but I don't necessarily like the inner office politics of most places. And so that was part 1. Just really owning the idea that I did not want a job. I just didn't want one. And then I would say fast forward about 5 years later, I had to make another decision because what I found myself doing when things would get difficult, I would send out some resumes. I would, let people on LinkedIn know I'm looking for a job, but I didn't want a job. But I'm looking for a job, but I didn't want a job. And I had to make a decision at one point to stop quitting my own business. And so then it became, look, you're either going to go for broke or you're going to get a job. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've been dating somebody, you don't really like him, but you still going out with him. And I kind of felt like I was treating a job and my business like that. I don't really want a job, but I'm still applying. I'm kind of afraid that my business won't be what I want it to be, but I still keep saying I run a business. And then it became either fish or cut bait. You either run a business or you have a job. And at the end of the day, a house divided will fall. So make a decision. Can I get a job and be happy? I can make it work. Or I'm going to have to pull out the stops and make my business work. And so for me, the first time, like I said, it was about the fear of the job market with 2008. It was like, how am I going to survive? I didn't want a job. And then, like I said, about 5 years after that, it became, I want to make the investment and go for broke, because I believe personally, anytime you half do something, you get half benefits, you get half outcomes. And how can you say, if you didn't put your whole self into it, that your business didn't work, that it didn't thrive? Well, you didn't really give it all you had. You gave it a little something to see what it would do. It's kind of like, again, playing games with yourself. So for me, it was more mental than it was about the job, because once you decide, it's kind of like getting a divorce. If you and your spouse are arguing, but you know divorce is always on the table, you hold a little something back. But when you decide this is what we're going to do, we go about it differently. And the same thing is true with my business. Once I decided that I was tired of inconsistent results with respect to my productivity, my marketing, and my revenue, I made a decision because I'm like, I'm getting older. I don't have time to play with my retirement. So I'm either going to go for broke or I'm going to get a job.
Right. It's powerful. You said quitting my job. I mean, quitting my business. You know what I mean?
Yes,
that's
quitting my business.
That's interesting. I like
Think
that.
about it. If you're applying for a job, but you run a business, you are saying something. Whether you realize what you're saying or not, you're saying something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I just also want to point out too, you could tell that you're from the South. You know, you talk about fish and cut bait. I'm a fisherman, so I understood. But most people may not know what that means. Fish and cut bait.
Hey, nothing but love for the South. I'm from the South, man. Nothing but love for them, you know. Yes. TK Mac, what's going on? Tell us your turning point.
I mean, the ladies have all shared very powerful points.
Yep.
I think for me, it was a time thing. Very, very. It was about time, you know. And so my mantra is time is your biggest commodity, right? Like without time, you have nothing. Like money, you don't have freedom, you don't have an opportunity to decide whether it's a job or a career, right? You need time. So when pursuing musical passions, you know, I thought, could I cut? I thought about statistically also, like if it's going to take me 100 hours to chop this tree down, if I do 2 hours a week. Or 50, how many trees can I chop down? And so with work and with a job, it was cutting into tree chopping time. And it was like that push and pull of, and I know, look, everybody has different responsibilities. Everybody has different, you know, kind of like cards you're dealt, right? The cards, everybody, that's that old saying, the cards you're dealt. So for me, I was fortunate also being a musician. I was able to, I would say if you don't have a job, definitely have a plan, you know? And so, you know, don't ever try to navigate the world and not know kind of where you're going. Maybe it's a 6-month plan, maybe it's a 60-day plan, but you kind of have to know, all right, where's my left foot going? And then where's my right foot going? And so for me, I grew up in the church and I was able to be a music director starting at 13 for 20 years. And so that, you know, and then that enabled that built a crazy network of musicians that I knew and met, and that, you know, that we still work together to this day. And then also that was kind of like my safety net. That was my cushion. That was my ability to invest in myself. I was able to take that money and then, you know, grow resources and sow seeds back into my own career. So yeah, I would say whatever it is, you have to have a plan, because you can't, I caution everybody, don't just say, oh, well, you know, I the light went off and then I just jumped. Oh, nobody does that. Like sit down, write
okay,
Mhm.
when I jump, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna, you know? Because even if you're jumping, you got to know what you're gonna do next week,
Right.
right?
Mm.
And it's kind of like at least have that much responsibility to yourself, because I think a lot of people take these risks and they're like, yo, man, yeah, I was working at the sneaker store and I quit. And I'm like, well, why'd you do that? Because my record career is about to pop.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's how I feel.
how you gonna buy studio time?
Right.
Nah, but man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yo, you don't have that. Like, I had a cushion. I made sure I can pay for my studio time. Like you, and so I just always caution everybody, like, whatever you do, just make sure you have a plan. So that's my thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a really good topic of conversation. Like, did everyone have their contingency plan already set in place before they quit their jobs?
Honestly, I got fired. So, so long story short, it was like I had registered my business with the state, but I wasn't ready to fly it, and they beat me to it. I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" And it was amazing because I was devastated. I went home. It was a TV moment. I laid on the bed for like 3 days. Oh my God, I can't believe I got fired. But at the end of the day, because somebody just popped up a question in the chat about advice for parenting. I don't know what advice I would give you if you were a parent. Because I was single, I could weave and bob in a way that I don't know what to tell parents. As a matter of fact, from time to time, I would teach workshops for a couple of small business startup organizations in South Jersey where I live. And this is what I tell people. And it kind of goes back to what I believe TK was saying. You got to recognize that you only have a certain amount of time, and you've got to be excellent with how you manage your time. To give you an example, I've taught classes at like a couple of the incubators around town. So let me get this straight. You're married, you have 3 kids, you got a full-time job, and you signed up to take 2 classes at community college. Hold on, homegirl, this is not going to work. It's not that you can't do it, but you need to sleep. You need to bathe. You got to do some homework. You got to do all these things. And so with that being said, I think that for me, what I would tell people to focus on is coming up with a plan that you can execute consistently. So if you can only put 3 hours a week in your business, if you need to be up at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning from 5 to 8 to do what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But if you can't put time to it consistently, it's not going to work. It's not to discourage you. It's just that running a business you gotta work it on a regular.
And I think also to add to that, I just read the question for someone looking for, I guess, entrepreneurship tips for parents. I am a mother as well. I have 2 daughters. And I would definitely say the biggest thing would be, as far as entrepreneurship, is to figure out what your return on investment is. So for me, I know that when I'm running my business, what's going to give me the biggest investment for my time takes precedent each day. So that list changes from day to day, but I would definitely say make sure that what you're doing, one, be consistent. That's definitely the key. But just make sure that what you're investing your time is going to give you the biggest return on the investment of your time. Because as an entrepreneur, your time is very valuable. Your time is all that you have in some aspects, when you don't have clients, when you're not generating revenue. So just make sure that you're being cognizant of your time.
I'd like to add to that too. I guess I have the most kids out of all of the panelists. I have 4. And so for me, being a parent as well as an entrepreneur, at one time I was going to school and I was working my full-time job. So I would say that my advice for someone who is a parent and looking to try to figure out how to balance all of that is to, one, make sure you line up your support system so that you have help, not only with the bigger picture, but the day-to-day activities that your kids may be involved in. And so it also comes with doing things like cutting out, useless activities like watching TV, social media. So you can find time in many different places to cover the things that you want to do. So just a rundown of a day for being when I was in graduate school, I would go to work during the day. Well, kids and off to school and all that first. I would go to work. I would come home, I would get them together. After dinner, I would do homework, sometimes till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I was taking 15 credits, each semester so I could finish. I finished in 3 semesters. And then I was involved in a couple of little volunteer activities. So I feel like if you want to make it work, whether it's being a full-time entrepreneur or, 9 to 5 with some freedom and extra activities, you just have to find the time. And then, of course, you can always include your kids in some of the things that you're doing. Is depending on what type of business you have, you can make where your kids are involved. So there's a bunch of different ways. And I would say for the person who asked the question, I would recommend reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That has been my Bible since, I would say, 2010. And so that kind of helps me manage a whole lot of stuff because of the awesome information in that book.
Definitely. And I think, so I'm a parent of 3, as well as an entrepreneur, as well as, have a full-time job. And my advice, to the viewer about, balancing entrepreneurship and being a parent, just forget them kids. Okay.
You can do that too.
No, but I'm joking. If my kids are watching, I love you guys. We'll get some ice cream later. But I do think it really is about managing your time, right? And Justin and I, Jay Tyler and I talk about this all the time. Putting the PS5 down, putting the Xbox, getting off of Madden, and really focusing and concentrating, on your business when you have that time, and really just cutting all of the the other things out and getting right to it.
And to this point, and not to beat a dead horse, but as everybody said about the time and cutting things, it really forces you to think about what you really value.
Absolutely.
Because there are certain things, and don't get me wrong, I love the Lord. He heard my cry, but no, Reverend such and such, I can't volunteer on every committee at church. I can't volunteer with all of the social groups. So a lot of stuff has to be cut. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, how important is whatever it is that you want to do? Because you got to make some tough choices. And for me, in addition to running my business and doing all of those things, I'm very active in terms of like fitness stuff. And so then it became factoring in everything. So I get up in the morning to run at 5. I cook almost every day because you're not going to run my body down with having me eat junk food all the time. And so when you factor in what's really important to you, you make a lot of cuts. You definitely make a lot of cuts.
I'm glad that you said that, because entrepreneurship is one of those things. It taught me a lot of life lessons. And so it basically taught me what I value. Do I value do I value watching, TV, or do I value, getting my revenue, or, making cold calls, or whatever I was doing? So it really helped me get my personal life as well as my professional life in order. I had to learn I was lazy in these aspects. Get it together, Shamir. Can't be lazy when you want to run a business. You can't be a boss when you want to run a business. And, it's all great to have, the letterhead and all that good stuff, but it's a lot of work. So I think that's one of the things entrepreneurship teaches you. Like, you really have to have the grind mindset 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, just no, J-Tyler, please. Cause I had another question, but go ahead, because I see you're jumping in on this.
No, because I have a question too, but I'm gonna let you go ahead, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
No problem. Anytime.
So, so I wanted to ask. So, are you really a business if your business is not registered with the state, right? And so, because what I see, when I see from a lot of entrepreneurs is they say, "Well, I'm a business." Well, they may not have an EIN number, right? They may not be registered with the state. They may not be filing their taxes, right? And I'm not even going to get into this whole social media post on, go file, get an EIN number, apply for the SBA loan, take that $100, flip that.
Tax fraud.
The tax fraud post.
Right.
But when you talk to a lot of people that work in the banking, and when you're in this industry, if you're not registered with the state, are you really considered a business, right?
Bless your heart. I would say this. I think when you talk about, I try not to get into those conversations about what makes you a business, because people feel judged automatically, blah, blah, blah. I will say this. When you talk about what it means to run a business, the way that I've always looked at how I do things, it's important for me to have my business on paper, because what I have always been aware of is if I need to buy a car, if I need to buy a house, when I mentioned a little bit ago about quitting the business, because I need to plan for retirement. I got stuff I got to do money wise. And so with that being said, when you talk about running your business, if you don't have your back office together, you can't do that stuff. One of the things that I don't know the stats on because I haven't bothered to look it up, but when we talked about how Black-owned businesses weren't getting their share of COVID money, most of the people that I talked to who have the tax ID numbers, who are filing their taxes and their paperwork, they were able to navigate those kinds of things. And so with that being said, I don't know how you can run your business long term. Maybe when you're first starting off, because you're trying to see if you really have the, the stamina, the drive, the passion. Maybe you're treating it like a hobby. You're just trying to see if you can get traction. But I don't really see you staying in business, particularly for a very long time, because talk about the expenses you're going to spend money out of it. If you're not recouping those expenses and figuring that out, I don't know how this works for you. I just don't know how it works. So for me personally, I would say not just do you need those things to protect your own financial future, but I think once you start getting that together, I think you take yourself more seriously. And so with that being said, I would almost say I might let you start that way, but not for very long before I'm asking you questions about what are you really trying to do other than have something to do after work.
Right. I would say for me, most of the people that I run into who are looking to start businesses or they say they have businesses, they're not legitimate businesses, they're brands. So a lot of these people that I'm running into, they're brands and brand ambassadors. They have t-shirts, they have sweatpants, they selling wigs and bundles and bonnets, edge control and everything else.
Edge control.
Edges, okay.
Edge control. That's the new one.
Okay. So I do a lot of brand ambassadors, and again, they're not legitimate. And like you said, when we come into like the COVID and the PP loans and all those things, they weren't able to get those things because they weren't on paper. So to answer your question, I would say more brands versus business owners.
I'd like to add something.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Chico.
I was just gonna say yes, and my mom, who's actually watching right now, shout out to
your mom.
Hey, mama.
But she instilled in me something in a long time ago. She had asked me, it was like the first time she had asked me to do something for her, like like a little job around the house. And she sat down and she wrote the task out, she wrote the amount, and then her signature and my signature. A little contract.
Contract, right. Wow. Wow.
And she said paperwork.
Right.
I was like 7. Paperwork with everyone. And she said, if I do it with you, you can't say that anybody can't do it with you. And that lesson to me instilled that without paperwork, you don't exist. And I've had friends in the music business, Grammys,
no paperwork,
no money. Statue doesn't mean anything. They had to buy the statue.
Wow.
So paperwork.
That's deep. That's deep.
So yeah, I agree.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to your point, even about paperwork, literally, I found that the more significant my business became to me, I have an attorney who I work with very closely. When I'm working with new customers, we don't just talk about the terms of agreement, what we're going to do. I have a document. I'm going to take my crack at it, put everything in it, and then I'm going to send that to my attorney. I need you to double check it. When I go into contractual agreements with other businesses, when I'm subcontracting, I need somebody to look it over because to TK's point, I need to make sure my interests are protected. And at the end of the day, when I do what I do, I want to make sure that I'm not making assumptions about the money and the details and the terms. I find that without that paperwork, I feel less confident the larger the dollar amount gets. To give you an example, there was a female friend of mine. Actually, she is also a consultant, and she wanted me to partner with her to bid on a contract for a significant nonprofit over in Philadelphia. And one of the things that caused that to fall apart, as much as I love my friend, I'm like, look, the paperwork isn't working out. And at the end of the day, as much as I like you personally, where we were putting together the bid. And for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with that, you're trying to tell the customer how you're going to solve the problem that they asked you to give them a potential solution for. And the issue I kept talking to her about was what I call scope creep. And it is they asked for this and you're going way out here. And because I am so paperwork oriented, I'm like, I'm not committing to all of this because the money is only about this part. And if we can't agree on how to bring this language in the bidding process, we will kill each other in the execution process. And at the end of the day, paperwork helps keep that kind of thing clear. And at the end of the day, when you walk away, you know why you walk away. And it's not, oh, she tripping. Low dollars and cents didn't work out. And as my little brother would say, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And at the end of the day, it's just about how you got to manage the back end of your business. And frankly, I think if you get really good with that, it makes it easier for you to figure out when you're ready to walk away from your full-time job as well, because you know how important the process, the strategy, and the money is before you walk away. A wing and a prayer only take you so far.
Yeah. And Marlena, that's a really good point. And I want to piggyback off that for a second. And I'm going to go to Alicia after that, because I know she had something to say about the topic too. I remember when I first started my resume business, and I tried to start it on a really affordable price, and be able to get a lot of customers and show my proof of concept, right? I remember being trapped after a while, and I think Duncan, we talked about this too. I remember being trapped after a while because I felt like I was working for free. This price was too low, and I'm getting a lot of business, and I know my worth is way higher than this. I don't know why I agreed to this price, So I ended up, bumping the price up and significantly, and I didn't find drop off in business, and I felt better about the transaction of my worth and my time and what I was giving to my clients as well. So that's a really good point. If you can't agree on the front end, things could be miserable because you feel like you're on this really cheap contract and, you're like, man, like I can make more money than this. I really sold myself out on this one, So you handle that up front and your worth. People respect you more too as well. They'll cherish what you're talking about a little bit more because they got to pay a little bit more for it, And so you'll feel like you can attract more people, especially if your value continues to rise. So something to think about. Don't price yourself too low, unless you have no business or no traction in the industry. Maybe you have to try something different. But you price yourself too low, you might feel like you're working for yourself and not really for the true value that you really have. So something to think about. Alicia, if you want to go ahead, I know you've been waiting.
I'll add really, really briefly. I just wanted to add that paperwork is also important for scaling when you want to hire employees. Shameless plug. A lot of the companies that I work with, or the small businesses that I work with, I'm usually hired when they want to hire employees. And so sometimes they don't have operations in place, and that can be, of course, with business paperwork as well as any job descriptions or expectations or goals. So paperwork spans across a lot of different areas, and I think it's important for all businesses, but especially Black businesses, to have those things in order so that when you're ready to scale, not only just to receive funding and all of those things, but to be able to have someone look at your business on paper and know what you do, what you stand for, and what your goals are. So it's definitely important. And one of the things that I find myself having to do with clients before we can even get into hiring is making sure that their paperwork is straight. Can you hire people do you have an employee identification number? Do you have a DUNS number? Do you have, some of these resources that are important, or some of these, paperwork that are important for you to move forward. So, the information is out there, it's available. It's just a matter of people, taking action and getting it done.
Yeah. Very good.
And if I can, because I just said, I like what Shamira said with brandpreneur, and then when we talk about the wigs and lace fronts, and so, and I don't like to pigeonhole us, but I think that I see that. I guess specifically in our community that we kind of, when we go out to be entrepreneurs, I see a lot of people like they just sell the weave or they're doing credit repair, right? And so I did a small stint as a city councilman in the city of Trenton. And the one thing that we would, $250 million budget, we would approve things all the time. And one thing that I would see, we might kick out $100,000, $200,000 for, something as simple as chemicals that we need for our city pools. And I said, well, wow, what if we had a Black-owned business that, somebody could actually fill that void? And so it's like, how do we go from, just, I guess, really focusing on these minor things that I guess are really readily available, right? From being that brandpreneur to going to entrepreneur. I think, and even I was inspired with on Facebook with Black Owned New Jersey. They went from like 1,000 to 250,000 Black owned businesses, but also I just wanted to see more of a variety, because if you say, like, trust me, if you say, hey, I need my credit repaired, you'll get 250,000 inboxes from individuals. But if you say, I need some chemicals for the pool, you ain't gonna find nobody, right? So how do we kind of diversify in that, right?
Well, shout out to Black Owned New Jersey. I'm one of the moderators. I don't know if you guys.
There you go. There you go.
So we see a lot of this stuff, like what you just said, and it does come up as a topic of conversation to how we can offer, different services within the group and not have it not just be about, posting and things like that. So yeah, definitely looking for those blank spaces where, we can encourage people to do different types of businesses is very important. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm sure they'll appreciate the mention.
I would say that there's a concept called the theory of loose ties. And it's kind of a play on birds of a feather flock together. So the theory of loose ties is this: when you're looking to grow and to expand and to get into new things, when you reach out to your network, you're probably not going to get what you need if your network is comprised of people who are a lot like you. Because frankly, those people have access to much of the same things you have access to. And so the idea behind it is to start looking at those second level connections, the people you might not talk to as much, the people you might not feel as chummy with, and start to nurture those relationships, because those people are the connect, if you will, to networks that you might not have natural access to. And to your point about the pool chemicals and that kind of thing, one of the things that I have found that has been useful to me has been to, frankly, swim in waters or go swim in a different pool. It's not that I don't like my current pool, but I realize that I've been over here how many years? I know most of the people at this particular set. So I'm going to go try swimming with some new people, not because I necessarily even want to, but because I need to grow. There's a quote that says, if you're the smartest person or the most resourceful person in your crew is too small, you need to change it. And I think what we forget sometimes as people of color, that we need to mix up our networks and our communities, start to ask questions, and to take some risks to get to know people who are not necessarily like us. And I don't necessarily mean that those are white people. They might be, but looking for people who are simply not like you, who don't do the same kind of work that you do, who might not do the same social things that you do. Look to add some variety into your circles and to have some conversations with people, frankly, that you might not run across every day. You might be surprised. You got a whole pool chemical shop down the street you ain't know nothing about.
Very true. Very true.
I'll jump in. I'll piggyback off of that. I would say also never stop being curious. I think that's a part of it. It's just natural curiosity. I think a lot of times we look, again, it's we look around our surroundings first, and to I want to butcher your name, Mylena.
There you go.
Right? Okay. I've been practicing it in my head for 10 minutes. I was like, Mylena. Okay, got it. So I think that a lot of times we as a people, I see this so often. And to give you an example, right? When I first went to study at Cornell, I took a film scoring class. And everybody's like, yo, you make beats and like you doing this, and you like why would you take film scoring? And I'm like, because how many black film composers are there? Like, I already just had my sight set on like, how can I be the first? I think we as the people need to start pushing for more. How can we be the first rather than the next, so that we can start to expand? Because so often it's like, I'm gonna be the next MJ, I'm gonna be the next LeBron, I'm gonna be the next Kobe, I'm gonna be the next, and it's like, yo, be the first astronaut to, make a beat on the moon or something, like take that music passion and now expand it, now make it bigger. Always think bigger. It's like, okay, if you want to sell eyelashes, find people that don't have eyelashes and make eyelashes for them, like fill that need. I think, right? Or like
Exactly.
make lace fronts for cancer patients, and like, you know, have like it's just like, I think a lot of times that we just don't, we refuse to expand, and we refuse to and it's almost a fear. It's a fear of being that person at the other lunch table, right? And that's like, I'm standing over here with the guy with the mascara on, and the guy with the, but see, that was always me. That was also Jay Tyler. We were always the two guys that could be the athletes and the popular people, but we went and sat at the other lunch table because that's where you find life, right? And so that's where I think is like kind of one of those things, like, go sit at the other lunch table, you know.
Indeed.
I want to add to that too. I think one of the issues with people not wanting to, you know, be different or seem different is the lack of personal development. Even as young as elementary school, like really taking the time for someone to either help them at that age to learn who they are, what their skills are, what their passions are, and being able to take that and say, okay, well, because I know these are my specialized talent, skills, and desires, now I can go and say, you know, let me create something brand new. But because they don't have self-identity early enough, then they want to be like the next LeBron, or they want to be like whoever's already out there. They don't really have anything to identify within themselves, right? And I feel like when you find your power within yourself, then that's when you get that confidence, because you're like, I know who I am. You know what you bring to the table, and that builds your confidence to be able to say, well, I'm that first kid that's sitting over at the lunch table, so you guys come join me. So that's what gives that person the separation, other than the people that, you know, are trying to get to that level. So you know, just becoming self-aware, learning how to learn yourself, understanding your personality, all of those things are, you know, important for that.
So I have a question for you guys. I apologize, my audio is giving me some trouble. But in terms of trying to find yourself and cultivate a new environment within this digital space, how would you advise someone who is now looking to social media, who they don't know who they are, they don't know who they identify with as far as business is concerned? Because, you know, social media makes it look very easy. Very glorified. You know, there's diamonds and Birkins everywhere. But for the people who don't know what it is, what it means, or what it takes to run a business in a world where it's glamorized, what would you say to them?
I can take that. I would say going to verified sources like, you know, SBA or SCORE, or getting mentors that are actually in those spaces. And this topic can be a little bit touchy, but I don't ever want to make it about someone being educated versus not, because there are a lot of millionaires, billionaires that are not educated. But I feel like you should go to the person that is well-versed in whatever it is that you're trying to figure out or understand or learn, and then learn from that person. And I'm not talking about, you know, just because they have a nice Instagram page, or, you know, they have a beautiful website. Like, look at that person's history. Who's those people's mentors? Do they have mentors, or are they just on here running their mouth? Right. So I think really looking into people, doing the due diligence of research, is where you can find the people that you want to, you know, aspire to be like. Or you can join, and again, I don't want to make it about professional stuff. You can join professional organizations in the field that you want to be in. You can get to know those people, understand what the field is like before you even go in. It doesn't cost you anything to go, you know, to a meeting and meet people and network and do those things. So I would say, maybe coming off of the world of social media for a little bit and just going out into the regular world and finding those people, because they exist and they're more than willing to help. You know, if they feel like someone is genuinely trying to find themselves and understand where they fit.
I would, that's a question. I would say first and foremost, really ask yourself what you're looking for with small business life. Some people just don't want to go to work on time. But really asking yourself, like, what's driving you here? Because I know some people, they just hate their boss, so they're going to do their own thing. Well, hate is not enough motivation. Hate runs out. You need something else to compel you.
Right.
But I would say first, figure out what do you want. I had one girlfriend tell me she just needed a little bit more money a month. And when she told me how much she needed, I was like, you should get a job at Home Depot on the weekends. You can take care of that. Because running the business is going to cost you something at first. And what you try, that ain't going to work. And so what I'm getting at is, I think first and foremost, you need to examine your motives, because sometimes, to your point, Shamir, people want to run business because they see everybody with the business card. They watch social media. They think it's easy. And they don't realize I've been up since 2 a.m. I didn't go to bed till midnight. I'm tired. I didn't go home to see my family for the holiday. I didn't do it because you got stuff to do. They don't see that part. And so I think first it's about figuring out your motive. And then I think the other part is really figuring out what your talent, your passion, your gift is. And for me, one of the things that I think is important to do that, look for the thing that aggravates you, irritates you, or that you want to fix. The thing that when you see it is broken, there's almost something compulsive about you that's, oh, let me help you fix that. Think about what you can do in that particular realm. And I think once you really identify that, then I think it makes it a little bit easier for you to go to the persons who are out there who are doing the thing to ask for help, because you have a different kind of curiosity. As Alicia said, they might be willing to help you, but I've had people approach me. And if I think you wishy-washy, I give you a coffee date and you late, you don't show up. You got look. What you're not gonna do is waste my time too many times. Now I'm gonna send you an invoice. You know, because that's how I know. All right, you want to reschedule, you got to pay, because the last time you were 30 minutes late, you gave me the whole thought. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is really why do you want to do this, and what issue do you really want to address? Because customers don't care about what you want to do; they want to know how what you do solves their issue.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll jump in just one really quickly. I think a lot of people are rushing to make money all the time. Like, I need money tomorrow. So I'm setting up a business. Right. And it's like, you know, what happened to apprenticeship? What happened to learning on the free? Right. Getting that knowledge in, whether you do it as a self-study, like if you want to be in IT or whatever, do that on the side, or you're working one-on-one with somebody. Right. So you got to be able to, you know, kind of build the foundations, right, for your house before you live in that house, right? A lot of people are just ready to have the house tomorrow, 3D printer, make it, you know, have a house tomorrow. Like, it doesn't necessarily work like that. You'll lose it just as fast as you got it. You know what I mean? Some of y'all didn't even get it, right? Because you're just working too fast. And so I think it's building that proper foundation. So now you have something to give to yourself, and you're building your value, and you're giving something to this person that you're working with, right? Or you're just self-studying and bossing up in the silent, right? In the darkness. And then one day you emerge 2 years later, and it's like, whoa, I didn't even know you were doing all this, you know, and it looks effortless to them, but you put all that time in, and now you got a second hustle, all right? Or you have your full-time thing that liberated you from your, you know, from your employee dreams or your nightmares, right? So I think apprenticeship is very important, and I think a lot of people are just trying to make money super quick, and it does take a little time. So
can I just interject one thing that I just wanted to touch on before before we wrap up? I just wanted to say that also I feel like on this journey of like employee to entrepreneur, that like a lot of times we forget that like when you're an entrepreneur, you still have customers, right? So although you're not an employee, there's still something that you answer to. And I think it's like people get this idea of like, I'm the boss, which means I can treat my customers a certain way. I can be unprofessional. I can be unprepared. All these things that you're like, but now you're messing up your customers. So how you make money? So I think it's like we always have to be mindful of, you know, on this journey, like you always going to answer to somebody. Somebody's going to, you know, because if you don't, you're not going to have business. You know, even if you ran a website. I not even bring up mom again, but she ordered some stuff off my website for Christmas. One of the mugs came broken. She's hitting me up every day, like, excuse me, like, this is horrible. How can I recommend this website to anyone? This is awful customer service. And I'm like, I gave you a 30% discount. Doesn't matter. One of the merchandise ended up, and it's again, you can't take that for granted that. You know, you even though you're not, there's not a boss who's signing your check. There's a customer who's writing your check, or there's a client who's writing your check. Right. And so there's an accountability there, and I think we can't lose sight of that. And I want to stress that to anybody listening. Like, even if you make it, if you cross over to full-time entrepreneur, the pressure is even more there, because it's like if you mess up,
it's on you.
I've had a DJ lost a tour because I fell asleep on a train going to a gig and I fell asleep. They called me. They needed a DJ the next day to fly out. Fell asleep. Mr. Call. Called back 15 minutes later. Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Oh, yo, we filled it. 2-month tour. Just like that. Wow. So it's like just being accountable and knowing that, you know, there's higher stakes, especially when it's full time.
That's right.
You know, there's that accountability there.
I want to piggyback on that too. I think it's important that when you make the transition from business owner or entrepreneur to employer, that you have that same attitude with your employees. So, you know, just the same way you have to treat your customers right, you have to treat your employees right as well, whether they're interns, part-time or full-time. You want to make sure that you're supporting these people that are basically supporting your business. And I've seen that happen a lot where, you know, people are bosses, but they're unprepared to actually be a boss and be a leader. So customer service is important, not only for the customers, but leadership skills are important for a team once you're ready to make that transition.
And I know that we are a little bit short on time, but I think that you made a really valid point that there is a really big distinction between leadership and being a boss. Being a boss, you know, in my opinion, is one of those things where you're telling someone what to do, but leadership takes a little more self-awareness of what you can bring to the table and how you can effectively lead your team. And so I noticed even within my industry, like I said, I'm a cosmetologist. So within my industry, there are a lot of times I would be in salons and I would see my business owners doing certain things. And I'm like, I'm not sure the salon owner should be doing that. And, you know, little things that I picked up. And then I had salon owners who would actually be more hands-on and say, no, don't do it this way, do it this way. You know, make sure that your customer is, you know, prepared, you know, and comfortable, things like that. So I know that there's a really big distinction between boss and leadership. And I think that's something that we should all consider when you are transitioning from employee to entrepreneur.
For sure. I will say this, and then to piggyback on both of your points, you don't know what it's like to build a team, the amount of time it takes to get some people who can do the things you need them to do them well. Lord knows I do not need these people to quit. So I can give you an example. One of the ladies on my team over Christmas, her mother passed away. And that was something that I really needed done. Everything in me that wanted to be like, hey, it need to be done today. Hey, take all the time you need. I'm gonna send your mom and them some flowers, whatever. What I don't need you to do is quit.
Yes.
Right. If you need 6 weeks to get your feelings together because you and your mama's tight, I get it. This project can wait. Because that's the difference between knowing what it means to have somebody on your team who can get the job done well and makes you look good versus somebody who's just trying to make a couple dollars and leave at 5 o'clock. Right. And to your points, ladies, if you can't manage those internal customers, your external customers catching hell too.
Right. And I just want to add to that too. I've been able to luckily work with interns through school programs over some years, which has really been awesome for me. Because I got tired of staying up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning for 10 years. But being able to work with interns really helped because if you're able to find ones that are passionate in whatever area that you're hiring in, like for example, I have 3 fashion interns that come and help me with the boutique, not only inside, but, you know, through the online operations. And so all 3 of these young ladies are in fashion programs. So it means something to them because it's a part of their grade and they want to get the learning experience. So I think it's a matter of understanding, again, that you have to go out as a boss or as a leader and get those extra skills so that you can know how to manage a team. Because, you know, if I was just a crappy boss coming in, throwing my scarf over, telling them to get my coffee, they wouldn't stay long. But, you know, being able to give them some value is also my responsibility as an employer. And since they're in a learning capacity, you know, in addition to whatever they're doing here, you know, I make sure that they have learning opportunities. And it just so happened because I'm in HR, you know, they got things like orientation, they got, you know, job descriptions and, you know, paperwork and everything is, you know, in order so that they feel like they're doing something of some value and that they can actually put on their resume, even though it's a small business. So I think that's something also to consider. When you're thinking about becoming an employer.
Okay, so we have probably just 2 more questions. Before we wrap up. I guess I stated earlier that I was a city councilman for the city of Trenton, and then I went on a trail to become mayor. I was unsuccessful in that bid, but while I was running for mayor, I can remember I was out there. And I was talking to a group of individuals. So, you know, we're all standing on the corner. I was telling them how, you know, I wanted to bring jobs, training opportunities. And I remember this one young man. Well, he was a grown man to my left. He said, I'm not going to vote for you. And I said, well, why? Right? I mean, it's okay. Why? He said, because you're telling me I need a job and not to open my own business. Right? And so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if I have to tell you that you need to open your own business, you probably shouldn't have a business here, right? So I don't think he voted for me, nor do I know if he was actually eligible to vote. But hopefully, we got him registered.
He might be now, so I don't know.
So the question that I want, because I mean, we're seeing it nowadays, especially with technology and information really just flowing. Should everybody be an entrepreneur?
No.
Okay, that was
wow.
That sounded like it came down. I looked up.
I heard a voice like, hey,
yeah, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Well, I think everybody should have some fundamental skills that would serve you as an entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean you need to put out your shingle. You need to be able to communicate. I think everybody needs to know some basic stuff about, building websites, some fundamental stuff. You don't necessarily need to be able to do all of it. But I think we've hit a place in our society where I think what's considered a base level of knowledge, skills, and abilities is higher than it used to be. And I think those kinds of things serve you well, no matter what you decide to do, whether it's a job or run a business. But no, I don't think everybody should run a business. Even if you decide you want to side hustle some of your hobbies, doesn't mean you should turn that to a business necessarily.
Right.
I can go real quick. It's funny. I ran a recording studio in New York for a few years, and when hiring engineers and staff for the studio, one of the things that I look for in support staff are people that are verbal about wanting to support. And so, when I think that some people recognize their skills. My some of my family members have been, CEOs of companies, and when they go through the interview process of who they're going to bring on their team, they're not looking for the next CEO. They're looking for the person that can back the CEO up, that wants to have a lifelong career as number 2 or number 3 or number 4. And so I think that I highly disagree that everyone, but that's not to say that people shouldn't learn. People shouldn't have hobbies. People shouldn't have passions. Maybe you're not supposed to be an entrepreneur, but you're supposed to be the basketball coach. Maybe you're supposed to be that kid that's going to get the next kid that wants to be the next LeBron, to go back. So, I don't think that doesn't mean that you can't lead, but that doesn't always mean that you need to run a business. So there are people that can be community leaders. There are people that can be mentors. There are people that, could be, volunteers, great volunteers with the homeless every week. That doesn't mean they need to run the company that provides volunteers for the homeless. I think there are certain sets of skills that all entrepreneurs across the board kind of possess that enable them. Like it's funny that the top level CEOs jump across industries like Skittles. Like the person from Coca-Cola to Apple. Why?
They do.
Because they know how to lead. Leaders are set skills of leadership.
And what would you say is the number one attribute of an entrepreneur? And how would you be able to distinguish that from the worker bee?
Whoa, Shamir, we're the moderators over here. Hold on. Let us introduce our new co-host, Ms. Shamir Haskell. Please go ahead with your question. I'm sorry. Ask your question again. There you go.
It's a great question.
It's a really good topic. So I just want, for the people who are watching this broadcast and they're in the process of thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know if I have what it takes necessarily. And so I want them to be able to identify those attributes within themselves so they can say, okay, maybe this is not necessarily for me, or maybe it is. So I think since we are all in this panel and qualified to answer that.
Right. Definitely. Great question.
Thank you.
Anybody want to?
I would say the top one or the most obvious one would be being self-driven. Even when you don't want to do it, even when you have to go to work, even if you don't want to go to work, you got to go to work. So even when you don't want to get up and run your business, you still got to get up and run your business. So I would say being self-driven, self-motivated would be one of my top 5 of what it takes or what the differences are between entrepreneur and worker bee.
I'll just say vision. I think vision, being able to have vision, you got to be able to see what you're doing, how you're putting it together. Because even if it's small, even if it's just it could be the trucking business, and so it's like, what's the point? What's A, and point B and point C and point D and point E and point F. So I think it's kind of like being able to forecast a little bit, or knowing how to acquire whatever resources you need to help, so some people aren't like that. They're not going to sit there and come up with it, but they can Google the heck out of something and put it together, and that's vision in a way. It's just that's how you're collecting your information. We all collect our information differently, so I think kind of being able to have that vision, also being self-driven, but it's like vision and passion are like those two things of like what you recognize with like all entrepreneurs. I've noticed is like when they talk about whatever it is they're doing, there's passion. Like they sit up, there's the body language. It's a chemical thing because that's what drives you. I could talk music and media stuff all day because I'm passionate about it. And so I think that vision and passion are those two things that
what I was thinking. This is terrible, but this is how my mind works. I was thinking vision and relentlessness. And when I was thinking relentlessness, I was like, just like them people who went to Washington yesterday, you got to be right there.
Don't be starting that over here. Don't be starting that over here.
We don't have another hour.
I love Old Testament Bible stories, and I don't know if you all are familiar with the Philistines, but they don't quit. They don't care what it is, how unpopular. I mean, look, they in it to win it. You got to have a goal that you're chasing, and you got to give it all you got. Because otherwise business will give you lots of reasons to quit. I mean, quitting becomes convenient at some point.
Right.
That's all right. And I think can I jump on that one too? Since I'm not, I've stepped back as a moderator. I'm now on the panel.
Yeah. Shamir's the second. She's my co-host now.
I'm now exactly. I've been replaced.
Remember in the movies that I'm the captain now. You know what I mean?
I just got on Clubhouse and I was moderating there, and I'm trying to.
Shamir looked at Duncan and said, "Duncan, look at me. I'm the captain.
Yeah, I'm the captain.
This is my shit. Okay?
Yeah, that's what we doing."
Oh yeah. So definitely, I think persistence and tunnel vision, right? Drowning out all the noise. One of my favorite quotes, probably one of the greatest artists of this time, Sean Carter, Jehovah, he talked about his uncle who said, his uncle told him, he said, "You'll never sell 1 million records," right? And then Hov came back with, I've sold 1 million records about 1 million times, right? So he talks about his uncle who said, it wasn't that his uncle was saying that you couldn't do it. It was just he was placing, his limitations on him, right? Because he's never done it. He didn't know how he could do it, but because he had that tunnel vision, because he was persistent, he was able to do it and being able to, drown out the noise, right?
Yeah. And before I go into the last question to wrap it up, I would just say listen at all levels, right? And so you got to listen to people in entry level. You got to listen to middle management. You also got to hear what's going on, as a senior leader. And so once you become an entrepreneur, you can understand and empathize with people and what they're going through and their struggle. And if you went through that as well and climbed up from entry level all the way, you bossed yourself up to a senior leadership position, you'll understand it a little bit more. You can empathize with your people and give, solutions and feedback that will help them, right? And so I think that's the thing I would say. Just be able to, transfer your energy at all levels and have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Right. Just listen a little bit more and then you go ahead and action something, right? Instead of just actioning something, then listening later, can have some detrimental effects on you. So that's all I would say for that. But look at the time. Wow. We need to wrap up. It's a great conversation.
It is.
I'm serious. It's a really great conversation. The panelists are great. The audience, thank you so much, for your contributions, right? Has some wonderful contributions as well. The last question, we have 2, but the last question is more about just the biggest takeaway, what can we tell the audience and the listeners today? What's the biggest takeaway from this conversation from your perspective?
Who wants to start?
I took a back seat, so.
No, you're my co-host. You gotta go ahead.
Yeah, you go
Don't
for
rush.
it.
Don't rush.
Oh yeah.
I'm here.
But anyone go ahead.
The biggest takeaway in what context of today's conversation, or like what?
Just your experience, even the conversation or the experience.
Like biggest experience of like becoming an entrepreneur, the journey.
Yes. If someone didn't like tune in until now.
Oh, okay.
You know,
this is super simple, but I think overlooked. And I tell that, so I mentor a bunch of DJs across the country, and like when they first like kind of get into their club residencies, they come see Uncle Mac. I'm older than I look, and the only thing I tell them is be super professional. Like just be professional, and it's kind of like what that is. It's all encompassing. It's all of these things, right? On time, prepared. It's like, but be professional, because that it's something a promoter that books me often says. He's like, Mac, you know why I always go to you? Because I know I'm gonna get that 100% every time. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to think about it. And that's when you're building a business. Like I look at that as like a testimonial, right? And you take that feedback and you say, okay, so whatever I'm doing from point A to point Z, do that over and over and over and over and over again. Like don't change ever again. So it's like, you evolve and obviously get better and, stay up with the times and do all the social media stuff. But I would say like the biggest thing for me is just be super professional. For me, anybody's heard my DJ sets, and maybe Jay Tyler can attest to this. It's just like, he knows what he's doing. He's prepared. It's not a person that doesn't put the time in, puts that work in. And I think, I'm sure the three ladies can attest to this with all of your industries. The more prepared you are, you have more confidence. And then that confidence leads to, instilling confidence in your group, in your employees or your customers, or both. And now with all of that, it's now going to create more. It's going to create more resources. That's a biblical thing for any of our listeners that are, you want to create more, and you have to put that together to, bring those resources together to create more resources. So,
right.
But that's my biggest takeaway. Oh, and my other personal mantra is inspiration inspires me to inspire others to inspire. So it's like an infinity wheel of inspiration, right? So we all continue to inspire. You're going to inspire that person in turn is going to return that inspiration back to me. So if we all continue to do that, we'll be able to push each other.
I'll take the question next. I would say my biggest takeaway, or what I would want the audience to take away, is to get more comfortable getting to know yourself, so that the activities that you're involved in are an extension of who you are, so that it's not so hard to juggle, being an entrepreneur and a parent. And, if you do have a job, I actually do both, as I mentioned earlier, and so does, a couple other people here. But I think once you get to know yourself and really have some grounding on the things that you're passionate about, you'll cut out all the other stuff that are meat and potatoes, or get to the meat and potatoes of what you love. And then those activities will be an extension of you. So even though sometimes, I find myself being all over the place, everything that I'm doing, I enjoy, because it's an extension of who I am. So I don't feel like I'm overdoing myself, but I'm actually expressing, my energy and my talents in those different areas. So I would just say that do what is comfortable for you and your capacity and your bandwidth. And get to know yourself along the journey. And again, don't be shy as an entrepreneur to get some help, whether that be outsourcing or hiring in any of those areas too. So I would just say, get to know yourself, spend that time in your head, have a conversation with yourself. I'm a psychology person. I'll tell you, it's okay. You can do it. Talk to yourself, and be real, and know where you should be putting your time. And that way, the things that you're involved in will essentially thrive.
Wonderful.
I would say choose your values and live your life and run your business in a way that's aligned with that, so that you are consistent. in terms of who you are and how you go about running your business. And then be relentless in your commitment to your business, as well as your vision and why you do it. As I said before, once I stopped quitting my business, that made all the difference in the world in how I ran my business, and running my business in a way that's consistent with what I value as a person shows up everywhere else.
Awesome.
I agree. I just want to add to that and also give my takeaway. I think the biggest takeaway for, becoming or transitioning from employee to boss would definitely be to understand your why. As an entrepreneur, you're going to have those moments when you're going to just be tired and fed up. So understanding your why, having a clear mission statement, which you plan to achieve within your business. Also, again, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but have a return on your investment. Focus on the things where you know that you're going to be able to gain a profit, whether it's revenue, whether it's more customers, whether it's, client relationships, but focus on the things that you may be not as proficient in. And I think that would be a really good takeaway as well. But also really work at your business. Faith without works is dead. And a lot of people say, oh, I have faith, I have a business plan, I have this, I have that, but you have to show up every single day and make sure that you're working your business from 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. in my case, 6 a.m. to my last client of the day, but really show up each day for your business, because like you said, you can't quit your business every single day, but show up.
All right. I love it. And this is probably the most important question, just so we can, shed some, spotlight on you all. And, thank you all for coming in terms of the panelists. Where can we find you? If we want more information, more free game, or do a consultation, right? Where can we find you on social media? Where can we find you on your website? I guess my co-host Shamir, I want to start with you first.
Well, I'm everywhere. Again, I am Mrs. New Jersey, so I'm everywhere in New Jersey at the present time. But you can find me on my website, ShamirNicole.com, as well as I have a book on Amazon called Grow Yes. I have a mentorship that I have in the city of Trenton, where I teach young women to be bold, ambitious, and beautiful. So I'm usually doing that, but I'm everywhere online on every social media platform at Shamir Nicole.
Awesome. There we look at that. There we go. All right. So Mylena, let us know where we can find you.
Let's see. There are a couple places you can find me. My business website is voltagevista.com. You can also search my name, MylenaSutton.com. Additionally, you can find Voltage Vista on Instagram, and you can find Mylena Sutton on LinkedIn. You can find those same things as well on Facebook. I am not a Twitter girl, so don't wait.
Me either. I'm not.
I mean, at some point, I'm like, I don't even know why my profile is still up.
Gotcha. And there we go. Definitely. I love it. All right. TK Mac, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on all social medias at I am TK Mac, because I don't know who I am. And if you want to purchase anything, some nice cool sweatshirts like this one I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it. It says 6 feet, please, just to remind people to back up. And other cool stuff. We have a Protest Progress peace line that also helps fund the BLM movement, and is specifically bailing protesters out that are arrested while peacefully protesting. So check it out, lifefoodmusic.com, and or Instagram with pictures of my dog.
Shout out to your dog, man. For sure. All right. And last but not least, Alicia, where can we find you on social media website?
So my website is aliciapeen.com. You can find me on Instagram. It's AP_career coach. On my website, you can find my ebook, Get Hired, for candidates that are looking to get hired, obviously. And if you want HR support for your small business, there's information on there as well. And I have a free consultation that you can sign up for if you need more information about that.
Awesome. Yep. AP. I'm in education management, and so AP means advanced placement for me. So when I see that every time, that's what the acronym means. But
you know where that
wonderful
came
website.
from? It was originally Alicia Peen Lifestyle and Consulting, and I was given a little jewel that I should change it to something else. It didn't have to be AP, but so
Right.
that as I expanded, people didn't expect me to always be the one doing the consulting. So it gave me a little bit of a broader reach, you know, when it comes to me hiring other, you know, consultants to be able to come in and work the business with me. So that's what happened.
Awesome context right there. Duncan, take it away, my brother.
Definitely. Well, we once again we want to thank this awesome panel for
Yes.
coming out and
Thank
really
you.
just sharing their knowledge today on going from employee to superpreneur, right? Because after what you just learned today, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to take those next steps. And so we just want to say to our viewers, thank you. Join us on Thursday the 21st for our next episode, Building Your Brand: How to Add Value, Profitability, and Purpose on and off the clock. Thank you. We're out of here. Peace.